Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Amon Green, Gourmet Packers all-time leading rusher, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. We are live on YouTube, X, Rumble, Facebook, everything in between. Hopefully everybody's having an awesome day here on this glorious May the 1st. We'll have Tim joining us shortly, but here to talk some Packers this evening. Hopefully everybody had a great day. I know the chat's already filling up. Appreciate everybody making us a part of your evening. If you could hit that like button on the way in, feel free to sub to the channel, share it with your friends. If you don't have friends, then you've got some friends here. And they say low friends in high places, or low friends in low places, probably a little more accurate. But like I said, hopefully everybody had a great day. Let's start here with Taylor. The Packers news says, "Sup, Clayton? Jaire on some bunk? Shh." Now look at the post I sent you. It's like, can we have a quiet offseason? So here is the tweet that he sent me, okay? And in no way, shape, or form is this disrespect towards you, Taylor. But here's what the tweet says. And first of all, I don't know who Titletown Talks is. It may be legit, it might not. But here's what it says. New developments on the Jaire watch. It's now being reported that Jaire prefers to be released. A big change in tune from yesterday's news. Should the Packers grant him a wish of being cut, or should they stick to their guns and get compensation out of him? This is not new news. This is kind of the things that happen. And this isn't a shot at that handle. You know, take this however you want. It's not a shot at you, Taylor. That's common knowledge the whole time. Jaire wanted to be released so he can choose where it goes. So this isn't new news. Now, if he mentioned it, okay, he's pretty much been mentioning it through his agent the whole time, right? When Rob Domofsky has the two sources, one in the building and one in Jaire's camp, what's the message been all along? Well, they're parting ways. I'm 99.5% sure they're parting ways. That's because Ja wants to push that to get released so he can choose where he goes, as opposed to, you know, the Packers controlling where he goes with the trade. So I just wanted to mention that real quick. I've seen you commented that in the chat. It's definitely not new news. It's just kind of being regurgitated by different sites as if it's this breaking news, but that's been the stance the entire time. Ja wanted to be released. Goody wanted to get compensation. And the latest report yesterday was that they're both kind of coming to the realization it might work out if they just kind of stick this thing out together, at least for one more year. I'm hearing through the tea leaves here that they were trying to work out a deal to where they could just minimize it from 2 years to one, essentially, structure it in that way, have it heavy incentive based so he can hit free agency 1 year sooner, kind of that compromise in between. But who knows, man? And listen, I know there's people that are tired of the Ja talk. I get it. But the fact that got brought up in the chat, I just wanted to hit that real quick and just point out that that's definitely been the stance of Ja the entire time. So with that being said, we got Tim joining us now. Tim, how you doing, big dog?
Doing good, man. Sorry I'm late. Happy to be here.
You're good, dude. You're good. You
just in time for more Ja talk, right?
There you go, man. I'm telling you. And listen, until something gets done, it's going to continue to pop up. You know, yeah. I'm prepared. I have mentally prepared myself for this all offseason. I'm like, this is going to happen. It's going to happen.
Exactly. So, and you know, I'm a big Ja fan. You know, like that's my dude. I was jumping through the roof when we drafted him, and he's always been my guy. But at this point, I'm prepared for either scenario. Honestly. And realistically, without a restructure, it's his last year in Green Bay, even if he plays, right? Like if they don't release him and he plays this season, right? That's it. He's probably done.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you got to kind of, and then you look at the last couple of years, you know, 5, 7, 8 game seasons, you know, like he's kind of had one foot out the door, so to speak, already. So, yeah, right. You got to just prepare yourself for either scenario at this point.
Yeah, and listen, I think the Packers would be okay without him. I think they're better with him. There's no two ways about it. But that was the Nate Hobbs signing. They wanted to put themselves in a position where they didn't have to reach down the draft board on draft night and get a cornerback because they're kind of left empty-handed. It's the same thing with offensive line. You know, going into the offseason, we were saying, hey, we need 3 offensive linemen. Doesn't necessarily mean you got to draft them. You may end up signing one. We were saying 3 offensive line, and we were saying 3 cornerbacks. Well, what they do? They went and signed a cornerback in free agency. They ended up drafting one, right? That was if Ja didn't return. We were thinking there's 3. So if Ja doesn't return, you're in good shape. You're better with Jaire on the team when he's healthy. I want to make sure I'm very, very clear about that. But it's not the end of the world. You go out and you sign Aaron Banks at guard. What did that do? We talked about, now you were down Jordan Morgan last year, so you were down to your third stringers filling in as soon as Elton went out and got hurt, right, out of the Philly game. So what you want to do is solidify that offensive line. You're already coming out +1 with Jordan Morgan being healthy. Well, let's go get another one, and now you don't have to reach on offensive line. It just so happens the board fell perfect to them, and they took Anthony Belton. They really liked Anthony Belton with a second-round grade, a minimum of a second-round grade, right? So, and the other aspect, too, is wide receiver. You went out and got Mecole Hardman. Mecole Hardman isn't going to set the world on fire, but you put yourself in a position that, hey, if we find ourselves in a situation where, crap, we need another wide receiver, you don't have to reach down the board. You kind of you built a little bit of a high floor there, if you will. So that makes sense. We got Rob in the chat says, evening, fellas. Think this gets resolved before training camp? That's a great question, Rob. If I had to put money on anytime I ask a question like this, I'll say if I had to bet the farm, right, would it get resolved before or after training camp? For me, what it comes down to is the last possible second that Goody could cut him is obviously before week 1. So this could carry into training camp. Now, there were no pictures. This was a big talk on Wildy and Tausch yesterday that Matt Schneidman, of course, Matt Schneidman being the great reporter he is. I love Matt Schneidman. I just like the way his mind fires. He went through and looked at all 150 pictures from the practice yesterday, and he didn't see Ja in any of the pictures. The report before was he joined in on the offseason virtual program, right? And that was good news. Like, hey, he may be a part of the team. You see him working out with Xavier McKinney. Hey, it's a good sign. But they pointed out that it might be one of those situations where, look, if Ja may not be on the team, the last thing they want to happen is him be in the facility, hurt himself, and now you're on the hook for that salary. And that's where I'm still trying to get answers. Nobody can answer 100% for me. I wish somebody would. If he gets hurt at any point in the year, is that salary fully guaranteed now, right? If that's the case and they don't have this thing resolved, Rob, I could see it being something that he has a hold in training camp, not from just his part, but from the Packers stance too. Like, hey, look, we're not going to be on the hook for that. We want to hold on to you as long as possible. Maybe a team has an injury at corner, and then they're willing to trade a conditional 5th-round pick or something for Ja, right? If I had to put money on it, Rob, I'd say it may carry into camp, man. It could, That's probably where I would lean. I don't feel great about it. Wouldn't want to bet the farm on it, but that's kind of how I see it. I don't know, Tim, what do you think about that question? I think it's a great question there, man.
I do too, and I think you're absolutely right. There's a very realistic possibility that this drags out even longer than it already has, right? I mean, it's been no secret they've been trying to get a deal done with Ja for a while. Free agent market is doing what it's doing. We've seen the moves that other teams have made. We're heading into what do we have? We have mini camp for the rookies tomorrow. We're going to have OTAs before you know it, and before you know it, it'll be training camp time. So it would not surprise me at all if, this drags into training camp and they don't have some kind of resolution figured out,
Yeah.
Which would be great, though, because, we've got some young, talented guys in that secondary. It'll be fun to watch them battling out for a roster spot while the rest of us hang on every little, report that's out there until we figure out what happens with Ja Money. So, we'll see.
That's what cracks me up is like there's folks on one side that are saying, you got to get rid of Jaire. He's never available. He's always hurt, blah, 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 right? And then the second that you mention getting rid of him, it's the other side is, what are we going to do without Ja? Boys, we didn't have Ja for the majority of the season last year. We finished with a top 10 defense. Again, I'm going to say it every time. The defense is better with Jaire on it. But we played defense without him last year over, 65% of the snaps or what have you. So it is what it is, man. I don't think the team's going to fall apart and crumble if he's not on the team, but I do think it's better, especially if you get a Ja that's fully engaged and you're not having this stuff kind of held over and that type of thing. And I really do like the idea of the rumors that, hey, they may restructure it to a 1-year deal because he's going to be playing his ass off this year. He's going to want to earn a contract somewhere else next year because the Packers definitely wouldn't franchise tag him unless they wanted to use it as a placeholder to try to trade again. But the problem with that is if you do that and you don't get a trade, you're on the hook for that franchise tag. And I don't think Goody wants to do that. Goody doesn't even like it to the tune of $17 million this year. It sounds like, per the reports. Rob said, I'm with you. Deadline spur actions. And like you said, week 1 is the deadline, it seems. Absolutely. Somebody had asked another question here. Gosh, I just had it on the screen. Here we go. Greg Rice says, isn't it the first time John need to show up in July? He's got to attend 90% of the off-season program to earn a $700,000 bonus. Now, some people would say $700,000 isn't anything. I disagree. I think if it's $500,000 or more, these players do not want to forfeit that, right? But also there was rumors that maybe they asked him to stay away. If that's the case, then they would just waive that clause and he gets the money anyway. That way you don't risk him getting hurt, knowing that he may not play for the team. So it's a very interesting situation. There's no two ways.
I'm leaning towards option 1 though, because we already heard the reports about Ja attending the virtual off-season programs and stuff. Mm-hmm. So clearly he's laying the groundwork to play ball for as long as he needs to. And we'll see what happens ultimately. But again, without him restructuring or being willing to restructure as far as the contract goes, it's going to be really tough to trade him. So I think at this point we're looking at, outright release or he's playing ball in Green Bay.
Yeah. And that's correct. Prince says $700K on the line for Ja for OTAs, right? That's correct. That's what I heard anyway. So Elijah Gwynn says, sup, PTA family. What's up, Elijah? He says, any chance on Saturday morning live stream on a road trip to NC? So it would be nice to have a stream to listen to. We may do it. It just depends on how everything goes. I was kind of thinking about that earlier because, tomorrow, Tim, they've got their first OTA. I was going to hold this off. You know what? Let's do this. We'll come back to the questions here in a second. I was going to hit this a little later, but it kind of applies right now. Let's just go ahead and hit some of these off-season dates and give you guys an update on how the rookie minicamp and everything's going to kind of come into fold here, okay? So just some key dates. The 2025 Packers offseason is packed with critical milestones as the team gears up for the new season. Below are the key dates for fans to keep on the radar. So rookie minicamp is going to start tomorrow. So it's May 2nd and 3rd. If I understood Jason Wilde correctly on his show, they're going to have access to them. I think they're actually going to be there for the OTA practice. Now, listen, it's not going to be like training camp. I told you guys one of my favorite times of the year is actually covering training camp right here with the live tweets on the screen and giving everybody, the leaked footage of routes on air play. I love that, though, just sitting in here on an afternoon on Saturday. So maybe Saturday we can kind of link it up to when they're actually having practice or maybe right after practice and give you guys kind of an update show in that regard. We may do a morning show, though, Elijah. I really enjoy those. I do. I'm thinking about toning the evening shows back to roughly 45 minutes because we are kind of in the slow period. I don't want it to feel like something we've got to drag out. But, Tim, every night we're in here talking, and I look up and go, crap, yeah, we're running out of time. We got to keep, we got a lot to cover. So
yeah, if we say we're doing 45 minutes, we're doing an hour 15.
Right.
No problem. No problem. And I will be hanging around loitering at 1265 tomorrow. I won't have access to rookie minicamp, but I'll bum around the facility and see if I can catch some of the guys walking over or something. We'll see.
You're a good man. I'd be out there with a tent if it were me right now. So, all right. So here we go. Rookie minicamp. We talked about it. It says the Packers rookie class, including draft picks and undrafted free agents, will hit the field for a two-day minicamp. This session is essential for newcomers to absorb the playbook, demonstrate their abilities, and start blending into the team's culture. Then in 2025 schedule release will be May 14th. So we're going to go right out of minicamp, rookie minicamp, I should say. And roughly 11 days later, we're going to get the NFL schedule release at 8 p.m. Eastern time on May 14th. So we will be live for that schedule release. Now, I would love to sit here and paint this picture like it's going to be this big dramatic bang, there's the schedule. But the reality is, Tim, this stuff leaks out during the day. We usually know by noon, right? So we will have it, no doubt, come 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central when we go live for PTA Live on May 14th. It'll be a blast. So it says the NFL will unveil their 2025 regular season schedule, revealing the Packers' opponents, game dates, and primetime matchups. This highly anticipated announcement gives fans a clear picture of the road ahead. Then you've got OTAs cranking up on May 27th through 28th, and actually May 27th, May 27th, 28th, and then May 30th, along with June the 2nd, 3rd, and June the 5th. All right, that's spread over 6 days. These voluntary non-contact sessions bring together veterans and rookies for team drills, playbook work, and chemistry building. OTAs offer an early look at the team's potential. So that'd be absolutely exciting as well. Here's J. Cole says, Tim, don't get arrested tomorrow. Okay, sir, let's don't do that.
You see what Bates said?
When Bates say, take a ladder, you can get it anywhere. Carrying a ladder, it's so true.
Orange safety vest, get an ANSI vest on, and a ladder, hard hat maybe. You're good.
I've got a rule, man. I've been very, very fortunate to get behind the scenes at some pretty cool events. And my number one go-to play, Tim, look pissed off and in a hurry.
Yep.
You just don't make eye contact. You're looking at your watch. You get your phone. And just walk right by them. It's amazing how people are like, all right, he's doing something.
Act as if, right? Yeah. Just act like you're the boss, right?
Exactly.
I was like the old, hey, where's Jim? Jim told me I had to come over here. Just have a story, have a backline, and you just.
Have you seen John? Where the hell's John? Where's John?
Where's John? What the hell?
You got to sell it. Yeah.
Just walk in, start barking orders, right? That's all you got to do.
That's how I married Mandy. I just walked right in the ceremony and said, there she is. Hey, get over here. Let's go. The rest is history.
And then she was like,
sit your butt outside.
She actually said, I think I'll keep him. That's what she said. So, mandatory mini camp, June 10th through the 12th. All right. Offseason wraps up with a 3-day mandatory mini camp requiring full roster participation. This camp is vital for refining strategies, assessing player development, and laying the groundwork for training camp. These dates shape the Packers' path towards training camp in the 2025 season. Stay tuned for more updates as Green Bay prepares for another thrilling year of football. Greg Rice says, sounds like Tim's going to be detained tomorrow. That's probably a pretty accurate assessment. I got it ready, Tim. I wire the money in. We'll get you out on bail as quick as it happens, buddy. That's part of the Patreon funding right there.
You're the only guy with a GoFundMe for bail money at Brown County Jail,
Exactly. So, again, there are your important dates. I'm excited about getting a little deeper into this off season, man. And summer's fun, man. People are, oh, man, this is so boring. To me, it isn't, because you're just getting these little bits of nuggets the entire way, and you get to see the rookies. Like this weekend, we're going to see the rookies out there, and I can't wait to see Savion Williams next to the other receivers. You know what I mean? Like, because he's pushing 6'4". I think he's like 6'3.7" or whatever it is, right? I can't wait to see him standing next to a Jaden Reed and a Matthew Golden and those guys. Yeah. And matter of fact, look here, we got Ryan in here, man. Packer Net Podcast. Thanks for the package.
Awesome.
Good deal.
Glad it made it there, Ryan. Appreciate it.
We appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you more than you know, man. Thank you for the super chat there. Mandy will scoop that $10 up and I'll never see it. But everybody in the super chat is going, I'm going to stop doing that. And you probably should. Speaking of Ryan, go to Twitter and check out the hot video he put up on Savion Williams. And we're still trying to hammer it out. Ryan's in the same boat we are, Tim. Is it Savion? Is it Savion? Brian Gutekunst keeps calling him Savion. I think John Eric Sullivan called him Savion. Matt LaFleur called him Savion. All the announcers call him Savion. So soon enough, we'll hopefully know. But
when I bump into him tomorrow, I'll be sure to ask him, hey, man, what's your name?
Yeah. And you bump into him, you're going to go.
That's what we're rolling with.
You're going to go, what's your name? Dude, he's a physical specimen.
Oh, man. That's why I'm so fired up about this draft, because you guys know, like, it's, I have not kept secrets about the type of receiver I wanted in this draft class. I didn't want a smaller guy. I wanted a big body, good hands, guy that can, play that bully role as a wide receiver. And lo and behold, we got Matthew Golden and we got Mr. Williams. So we got one of each in this draft. We got a speed demon with good hands, field stretcher, and then we got an absolute dog that's going to be like, I don't know, what would you call it? Like our version of a DK Metcalf, or, our big body receiver. I think that's what Williams is going to be.
It's going to be interesting because like DK is a very vertical player, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. You may disagree, but I see DK as that straight line vertical threat. Savion is, man, he plays horizontally. And listening to, if you guys haven't listened to Ryan's podcast from earlier today, Packernet Podcast, I was actually going to play that little blurb of it where he put together a little compilation of all these other teams' podcasts, like, just random podcasts like what we do here, but for the Seahawks, for the Bears, for the Lions, and hearing them talk about Savion. Man, it's like everybody's like, this dude is the freak of this draft. You're talking about a guy that runs a 4.4 40, who's push. I mean, he's just a hair away from 6'4". He's 222 pounds. When you watch him run with the football, man, when he gets horizontal, and that's the only way I would differentiate between him and DK is when he cuts cross field, and we got a chalk talk teed up. We may hit it tonight. I don't know. But when he cuts across the field, he can get skinny. For somebody with such a wide frame, he can get so skinny in those tight spaces. He'll run people's asses over. He'll crack back on these bubble screens. He'll do it all. He'll make contested catches. He's got one of the better contested catch rates of any receiver coming out of the draft this year. Now, he's got a little bit of a drop issue according to the analytics, the metrics. But then you look at the contested catch rate, and it's like, okay, if you can make a catch in the 90%, like he was in the 90%, right? I think it was over 90% contested catch rate. If you can do that with 2 or 3 people hanging off of you, we can teach you how to catch in the open field. That ain't no problem, right? It's those guys that just across the board have more than a 10% drop rates where you really start to go, this may not pan out. So the other thing about him, Tim, is it's really, really exciting. We should probably just do the Savion. Here, I keep trying to get to this question from Deadfish. Let's just do the Savion scouting report real quick. You want to do that?
Yeah, I mean, just real quick, the only comp I was making with as far as to Metcalf is you're right. Like, it's not about the play, it's the body type. It's having one of those bigger physical type of targets. And you're right, Matt LaFleur is going to use him like, I don't know, 100 different ways in this offense. We might even see him get to throw a pass this year for all we know. And then I'm looking forward to, how guys like Jaden Reed and Tay Wicks are going to eat off the back end of that, just having a dynamic guy like Williams out there. But I think you're right, man. DK is that straight line vertical dude. I think Savion Williams is more of a versatile threat for sure.
Yeah. And he just hearing his attitude too. And then Ryan played a clip on his podcast where he's talking about a medical issue that his newborn baby girl went through. And he kept mentioning his wife, his wife and his child, what he did. It's like, he's way, way more mature than people his age. He's just one of those dudes. You could tell he's kind of an old soul, and he's a no BS guy. Like, they asked him about the playbook, what do you remember about this play? I don't remember that play. Like, that's just where they get me the ball and I score. Like, he's just very, I don't want to say nonchalant. He's very blunt,
Right.
And
which is refreshing, because everyone nowadays seems to want to spin narrative or sugarcoat or BS. It's like, it's nice to see a guy just calling it like it is,
Yeah, and they try to butter you up, right?
Yep.
And he seems straightforward. But anyway, let's dive into a little bit of the scouting report here. Okay, this is a versatile weapon for the future. It just talks about them adding him here, selecting TCU wide receiver Savion Williams with the 87th overall pick in the 3rd round. Following their first round selection of Texas wide receiver Matthew Golden, 2nd round pick of a top 30 visit with NC State offensive tackle Anthony Belton. The Packers are clearly focused on injecting youth and versatility into their offense. Williams, a 6'3", 222-pound dynamo, brings a rare combination of size, speed, and multifaceted skills that could make him a cornerstone of Matt LaFleur's evolving offensive scheme. So here he was in high school, right? A standout from Marshall High School in Texas. Savion Williams was a 3-star recruit in the 2020 class, ranked as the 573rd national prospect by On3 with an 87.21 grade at 6'3", 200 pounds. He starred as a dual-threat quarterback, all right, showcasing elite athleticism with a 4.5 second 40-yard dash and a knack for extending plays. His senior tape highlighted his arm talent and explosive running ability, earning him all-district honors. Williams drew offers from Power 5 programs like Texas, Ole Miss, Arkansas, and Missouri, ultimately choosing the TCU Horned Frogs, where he transitioned to a wide receiver with the potential to become a matchup nightmare at the next level. So you see in PFF grades, didn't get a whole lot of playing time in 20 and 21, but in 22, 58.9. And in 23, he kind of blows up, 72.4, and then he got even better in 24 to a 78.9 grade. And again, we want to point out the running grade. We kind of hit on this the other day with a 90.5 running grade and a 70.2 receiving grade. And again, the slots out wide, 345 snaps. In the slot, 95 times. He was in the backfield 38 times. He actually played quarterback 46 snaps last year with 7 kick return snaps and then 19 on coverage as well. We've kind of hit on some of this, so we won't go too in depth, but there you see the actual measurement. I think I'm the only one reporting that he's only 6'3" as opposed to 6'4", although it is, 6'3" and a little over a half. So maybe they round up. I don't know. But that scored him a 9.44 at RAS, with an elite composite size grade, obviously with 222 pounds. Ran a 4.48 40 with a 2.54 20-yard split and a 10-yard split of 1.53. So what you're noticing, that 20-yard split, in between 10 and 20 is where he's probably got the most burst. It's like he's kind of got that second gear there. But the top end speed graded out similar to the 10-yard split there. Injury and character concerns, it says he was durable, playing in 37 games over his final 3 seasons at TCU with no major injuries reported. A minor hamstring tweak in 2023 didn't cost him playing time, and his 2024 season was a model of consistency, starting all 13 games. Off the field, Williams is a high-character leader driven by his daughter, Legacy. What a name, by the way, Legacy, who overcame significant health challenges as a premature infant. Described as a selfless teammate and tireless worker, he brings a competitive edge with 0 off-field red flags, making him a cultural fit for Green Bay's tight-knit locker room. So we talked about his draft projection. He was a number 87 overall pick. He was a day 2 projection, so somewhere in that range pretty much fits it. You move on to what Dane Brugler had to say about him. A 3-year starter at TCU, Williams transitioned to a hybrid receiver role in the Frog package as a super senior and offensive coordinator Kendall Briles' up-tempo spread attack. He splits his 2024 snaps between wide receiver exclusively to the left of the formation. I did notice that. You're going to see when we do Chalk Talk, he lines up in the X, he lines up in the Z, but most of the time it was actually on the left side of the formation. And when he was on the right side of the formation, he would motion left. So whether it was a pop pass, touch pass, whatever you want to call it, or they done a cheat motion will with him out the left side. So it does seem to be one of those guys that he likes to catch the ball over his right shoulder. If that makes sense. And again, you got to be able to catch over both shoulders to play in the league. So I don't think they have any problems with that. Let's see here. Up-tempo spread. He split his 2024 snaps between wide receiver exclusively left the formation. In the backfield, 84 snaps as either a running back or a wildcat quarterback with just 23 targets of more than 10 yards, resulting in 9 catches. He was basically an extension of the run game on screens and slants. He also averaged 8 carries per game over the final 6 contests of 2024. A big, physically imposing athlete, Williams has some freaky traits that will tease playmaking flashes. Very fitting that he grew up idolizing Calvin Johnson. He can play above the rim and has a knack for pulling in contested catches, but he needs to show better confidence in his hands and improve the details of his routes. Overall, TCU leaned into Williams' unique athletic profile in 24, and the manufactured touches showcase his ability to create with the ball. However, the move came out of necessity because of Williams' inconsistencies as a traditional receiver. He projects as more of a joker weapon and needs a creative play caller who can utilize him in different ways, similar to Cordero Patterson. Again, they had a 3rd to 4th round grade on him. We took him in the 3rd grade, so Dane Brugler nailed it there. Strengths, looks like Adonis with his large cut-up frame and long arms. Moves with short area quickness and body control of a much smaller athlete. He made the Freaks list alum because of his explosiveness and power, would be favored to win a 2025 NFL Draft Prospect Slam Dunk contest. Physical to the football, especially on fades, and consistently high points in traffic. Bursts and play strength were on display as a Wildcat quarterback with 46 snaps in 24. Runs with urgency combined for 40 forced missed tackles on 111 offensive touches his senior season. So he got the ball 111 times and forced 40 missed tackles. That's wild. Completed all 3 pass attempts in 2024. Scouts say he had the strongest arm on the TCU roster. He played quarterback in high school. Wore the captaincy on his jersey. Receiving production improved each season at TCU. So you're seeing what Greg Cosell calls an ascending player, right? We're not going to go too deep into the background here. You guys can go check it out. Again, this is on our Patreon group. Scan the QR code in the upper right. We'll go to patreon.com/PackerFan Total Access. You'll get access to all of this on there for $3 a month. Greg Cosell says, elite traits profile with unique mix of size and speed and explosiveness, powerful frame and physical presence, multi-dimensional offensive weapon with deployment on jet sweeps and orbit reverses, and wildcat quarterback runs, straight line, fast, and powerful as a runner with a strong physical presence, freight train feel to his running. How about that, Tim? Freight train feel to his running. A tough cover on slant and glance routes with his size and hands, defeated press without any route disruption. There were snapshots where he showed an understanding of route running and how to set up defensive backs. There's actually one on the Chalk Talk. We probably won't do it tonight. We'll do it another night. But where he does a little jab, it's like a jab and go, where you just a little jab step out and hit a skinny post. Whew. I mean, and it was a bad throw too. It ends up being on his backside. So not only does he just absolutely cook the corner or the safety, whichever DB it was, he cooks him, comes back inside, and the ball's thrown on the wrong shoulder. And he literally completely torques his body and catches the ball as he goes to the ground for the touchdown. So you definitely see that all over the tape. When it talks about showed body control and hands to go up and high point the ball, the ability to make tough contested catches, has the speed and stride length to be a vertical dimension. Routes where ran by and got on top of corners. Run after catch weapon with his imposing size and speed and competitiveness, strong and deceptively shifty. So there you go. He's got another transition paragraph there you guys can kind of check out too. So he sounds like more than just a gadget guy, Tim. It really does, man.
Yeah, I agree. It's versatility, right? And it's kind of tough because it's a kind of like a thin line, right, between being a gadget guy and being just a really versatile wide receiver in this league. And I think we'll see the full gamut of him in this LaFleur offense once he, gets up to speed with the playbook and things like that. But the thing I like about him is the fact that I know we grabbed a UDFA running back, I believe, but much to Excelio's dismay, we did not draft a running back this year. But, Savion Williams, man, he adds some depth to that running back room in a pinch as well, behind Jacobs, behind Emmanuel Wilson, Marshawn Lloyd, guys that are, on the rise themselves. If we ever had a setback in the running back room, I would look for Matt LaFleur to tool that playbook and tweak it and involve Savion Williams in the run game and, use that explosiveness and that, dynamic versatility that he has. So there's a lot to look forward to with this guy. I cannot wait to see him on the field.
Definitely. Greg Rice says that touchdown thrown behind him where he twists and makes a crazy catch makes me think his hands would be awesome. I wonder what the disconnect is. I'll tell you what I think it is, Greg, me personally, and I could be wrong. I think Ryan might have mentioned this too. Not having the time to develop as a receiver. Mm-hmm. You got to understand, like when they're running these plays with him as the Wildcat quarterback and him on a jet sweep, like one play, they ran an outside zone. Imagine this: shotgun, sidecar right, outside zone left. The entire offensive line moves to the left. He comes off of that. They hand the ball to the running back, and it looks like a zone read. The running back pitches it to him, so now it's a reverse, right?
Right.
And then he loads up and throws a pass to the receiver on the opposite side. So it takes time to practice that stuff. It takes time to practice playing quarterback, playing Wildcat, running the reverses. Not to mention the RPO offense and everything that they ran down there and mixed in. With that being said, he hasn't had time to develop as a wide receiver. They basically said, how can we get the ball in this guy's hands, as opposed to, hey, look, we want you to truly understand the choice route aspect of, when we're in dub sets or we're in a tray set or we're in a trip set. We want you to be able to read the safety, read the corner. If they do this, we'll do that. And it already mentioned their quarterback didn't even have the strongest arm on the team. That was Savion Williams. So you were kind of limited in that regard, Greg. So I agree with you, man. That crazy catch he made, Tim, falling to the ground and having to adjust to the ball, shows me the hands are there. I think he's going to get up there with Jason Brable and actually get worked into rotation and kind of hone those skills as a receiver. Not that you won't use them on a jet sweep, you'll still do that, but yeah.
I agree. And that's why I don't put I put about as much stock as I should into drop rate when it comes to receivers, because that can get tricky, right? You talk about a guy contorting, adjusting to a bad ball. What about the ones he doesn't come down with, and it's like, oh, he's getting credited for a drop. It hit him in the hand, but it was a crap ball from your quarterback. Right. So it's kind of a deceiving stat, the drops that we all hate are the ones that are blatantly obvious, right? You come out of the break, it hits you right in the chest and you can't catch the ball. That's on the receiver. But I think a lot of times receivers kind of, they get dragged over the coals for drops. And, most of those are probably not necessarily 100% just a hands issue. It could be a multitude of reasons why they have a higher drop rate. So I'm not too worried about it, but I can't wait to see him. Hopefully not throwing too many passes, hopefully catching more in Green Bay. But we all know Tupac LaFleur, man. He's not going to hesitate to pull out the old razzle dazzle there. Probably right after the opening kick, right? First and 10 from your 25, and we're gonna try a double reverse and receiver option or something right out of the gate. So it'll be fun to watch, man.
Yeah. Daryl in the chat said, I see Williams as an outside X receiver / versatile receiver. I was really impressed with the tape watching it earlier. He can play X. And I think that, someone who, here's the other thing, being a quarterback coming out of high school, I'm telling you, that stuff matters. And at college level, like Julian Edelman became a borderline Hall of Fame receiver in New England, right? One of the most successful Super Bowl receivers in the history of the game since the merger. What made him so great? It wasn't that he was crazy fast. He had a good twitch, don't get me wrong. The thing that separated him amongst anything else is being on the same page with Tom Brady, but also understanding what it's like to play quarterback. I think he played at Kent State and he was the quarterback. So when you're playing receiver through the mindset of a quarterback, you see the coverage totally different. You understand what the quarterback's trying to get you to do in reading leverage and finding the open spot, all those things. So I think that's something that's going to kind of play into his route running ability and why I think he could play X receiver. I really do. So Coach Lynn here says, I think he has concentration drops. He's trying to make a move before he catches it. And Coach, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that can be coached out of him.
I do too.
Yeah, that's
for sure.
Yeah, that's not necessarily a bad thing that a guy is automatically thinking, I want to take this one to the house.
Especially on those in breakers, right? Running a slant over the middle, you're probably 9 out of 10 times worried about that DB or that linebacker coming across and popping you. So sometimes guys tend to not look it all the way in because they turn and get their eyes upfield a little too soon. I think that's what Coach Len's talking about. And I agree 100%, Clay. You can coach that out. That'll take 2 to 3 weeks, work the drills, get some live game reps, get some preseason reps, and, just work it out of the game.
Yeah, Coach Lynn says his first 3 years, though, he was playing a bunch on the perimeter, but I agree he has not perfected his craft. I think, again, you're getting a player that's ascending as he comes into the league and someone who – and that's the other thing. Like all these players, Mike McCarthy used to say it all the time, there are no bad football players in the league. They're good football players and they're great football players.
Yep.
And sometimes the difference between great football players and good football players is the opportunity they're given, the situation they're put in. It's also the coaches that they're surrounded by. Like you got to make sure you got coaches in the building that's going to get the best out of them and help them take that next step and to kind of achieve that what am I trying to say to that potential, right? And that's something that happens in college a lot too. These guys will get caught up in certain offenses or certain defense in that aspect as well, where it's just shut up and do what I need you to do. We're trying to win a national title, as opposed to this is what's going to help you at the next level. And that's not a shot at a college coach. That's what they're getting paid to do. Win national championships, not get guys ready for the league, So it's just when you find these guys that that potential hasn't been tapped into, now it's up to your coaches. It's up to your guys to put them in a position to win. And I think Coach LaFleur will do everything he can to put them in a position to win too. Drew D says, the good news about the draft being over is no matter what I thought of the prospects, I can root for them now. Amen to that.
Let's go.
Amen to that, man. And I just love the fact that can all kind of come together, at least on this particular show, and be like, okay, we don't know everything, right? We gave you guys our board all year long. We walked you through the entire process of us building our board. Here's where we got them ranked. But once the draft choice is made, I'm checking my ego at the door and going, okay, Goody had a second-round grade on Anthony Belton as opposed to us having a third or a fourth-round grade. Dane Brugler had a third or a fourth-round grade on him as well. What did he see in Anthony Belton to go, I want him in the second round? And for anyone who goes, well, that doesn't mean he's going to be good. I agree, completely agree. Mm-hmm. However, if you go off precedent, who was the last offensive lineman we selected in the second round, right? Josh Myers, center. That's not a good look. Before that, who was it? Elton Jenkins, right? So if you're going to hold Josh Myers over Goody's head as being a second-round offensive lineman selection that didn't pan out, you got to give him credit for Elton Jenkins, who's been one of the best pros. Now, here lately, he's not been quite as good as he was when he first came in the league. When we seen him slapping Aaron Donald around, that was absolutely awesome. But look at the other second-round picks he's made. Edgerrin Cooper last year, that was a solid pick, right? So you got to kind of take everything into consideration. And the other thing is get those guys on the field too. You know, I think Anthony Belton's going to have an opportunity to get on the field. And that all of a sudden, Tim, that offensive line room has got really crowded. I love it, dude. I love it.
Yeah, that's a good thing, right? Healthy competition. I agree. And then we all know Goody cooks after the third round, right? I mean, let's be real. Look at we just got done talking about Savion Williams, right? That was a guy that correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Goody had mentioned that we weren't necessarily going to take two receivers. We knew we were getting Matthew Golden in the first round based on how the board fell. But when we got to round 3 and Savion Williams was on the board, it was like, whoa, adjust everything we're thinking here. This guy's available, draft him, and let's go. And it's a great example of, proper gamesmanship by your general manager when he's willing to look at his board. That's what you put all the time and effort and energy into, right? I mean, we were at the Hall of Fame. We saw the board from, what was that, 2022 or something?
Probably my favorite thing about the whole trip.
Yeah. And it's like, think of how much work from how many people go into building a draft board like that. And you have to be, if you're the GM on draft day, you have to be able to make that decision and say, hey, we didn't want two receivers necessarily in this draft, but we don't draft for position. We draft for best available, and we trust our board. And our board said Savion Williams was the best dude available with the third round pick, and that's why he's a Packer right now. And I think history is going to prove us right in that respect. I think the Packers did a good job by making that pick for sure.
Definitely. Coach Lynn says, hopefully Wicks, Reed, Watson, Dobbs, Williams are all on the jugs machine after practice. That's the other thing is like, you remember when we drafted Jordan Love, how Aaron Rodgers all of a sudden won 2, back-to-back MVPs?
Mm-hmm.
Drafting these two receivers is going to light a fire under everybody, man.
Oh, yeah.
The competition is going to be – Tim, I'm so envious of you. You're going to be over at training camp seeing it firsthand, man.
Yep.
And these guys are going to be – they're going to be clawing for roster – not just roster spots, but like who's going to get the most snaps, who's going to get that guy in the top rotation. You know what I mean?
That's such a great point because a lot of people, they lose that in the mix. Camp is about getting your opportunities. It really hurt, watching Edge Coop last year being banged up at training camp and seeing him standing on the sideline talking to Quay Walker during camp because he couldn't go. Sometimes you get cheated out of those early experiences. But I think looking at this receiver room, man, I look at Malik Heath and Bo Melton, some of these guys towards the bottom tiers, man, that is going to be a hell of a battle. Just watching them going out every day, trying to win those reps, because one good play on Tuesday could mean the difference between you getting 2 or 3 more, reps on Wednesday during training camp, if that makes sense. So I'm looking forward to this just kind of picking up the whole receiver room with the competition that we have now. I would not want to be Matt LaFleur on cut day. I tell you that. It's going to be tough to make those decisions.
Yep. Steve, somebody asked, Deadfish says, hope you got a picture of that board. We'll talk about that here in a second. Let me go ahead and wrap up this article because we're already over on time, too. We're going hour 20 tonight. Mandy's going to be bad. Maybe all right. Outlook for 2025. Williams is unlikely to start as a rookie, but could carve out a niche in sub packages, leveraging his versatility to earn 20 to 30 snaps per game. I think that's a little high. When I asked the AI there how many snaps you think you'll get, that's what they came up with. I think it'd be closer to 10, probably 10 to 15 would be my guess, unless he just dominates in training camp and earns more, right? His special teams potential as a returner or gunner adds another path to playing time under the guidance of receivers coach Jason Vrabel. Williams will focus on sharpening his route tree and improving his hands to unlock his full potential. If he adapts quickly, he could push for a larger role by midseason, especially if injuries strike the receiver core. The Packer fans should be excited about Williams' rare athletic gifts and relentless drive. As general manager Brian Gutekunst noted, quote, "We're building an offense that can score with anyone," end of quote. With Williams' ability to impact games as a receiver, runner, and potential trick play threat, He's a high upside addition to a team with Super Bowl aspirations. Keep an eye on his progress during training camp, where his battles with Green Bay's talented secondary will test his readiness for the NFL stage. I can't wait to see him go up, Tim, for a jump ball on Xavier McKinney. That's what I'm looking forward to. So,
oh man, for sure. Or Evan Williams.
yeah.
Or hopefully Jaire Alexander. That'll be fun. That's one thing for sure. If Ja's out there at camp running around with these young receivers, man, he's going to give them everything that he's got for sure. And then some probably high effort and high trash talking to welcome these guys to the NFL. So it'll be fun though, for sure. Yeah. And it's like Emilio always says, man, iron sharpens iron, right?
Mm-hmm.
We got a good secondary. We're cooking with that secondary. We're 1 year removed from, a safety room that was a dumpster fire. And we corrected that in one offseason last year. And now we're going into year 2 with X and, Javon Bullard, Evan Williams. Like the back end of that D looks really good. And then, some of these corners that we're putting into play here, I fully expect them to, pick up that receiver room just off the practices and the camp reps alone,
Yeah, definitely. I was trying to send you that picture. As a matter of fact, let's just end this hour 1 here. For those of you listening on the pod, that's going to do it for hour 1. We will see you on the other side for hour 2. We appreciate y'all.